Stonehenge in ancient Egypt. Now, if you've been watching my videos or you've done your own research, you'll know that Ninurta, which was the son of Enlil, was asked to go around and build these calendars around the world, which he did. So this is in southern Egypt, and then you've got one here in Gambia in West Africa, and you've got one obviously in the UK, but the main Stonehenge we all know about, and there's one here in Scotland, but the farm owner says that he knocked it up in 1990. However, there's records showing that it's actually older than that, so you've got people that do lie for whatever reason, paid to lie maybe. And then you've got ones here that says there's some in Aberdeenshire and some in south west of Ireland, which look like that, and then you've got a beautiful one in Africa, South Africa, called Adam's Calendar, which literally is an amazing sight to see. So they are around the world. Some are destroyed, but some are. Why giants didn't build the Great Pyramid, and that's because at the period when the Great Pyramids were built, the giants were classed as evil, and that was after the flood. Now, the giants had gigantism. I'm possibly the only person that's actually worked that out, but it makes sense if you watch my other videos. I do explain why. Now, the Book of Enoch talks about the Nephilim being the giants of old, and they ended up being cannibals and eating themselves as well as humans. Now, that means that the people, the Anunnaki's children that had the gigantism ended up having obviously deformities, etc. And we know that not all of them did, because Adam and Eve is actually the offspring of Enki, which was an Anunnaki and a human. And they were, obviously, technically, Adam and Eve was demigods, believe it or not, but they didn't have gigantism, so therefore we have a bloodline from these people. Now, there possibly was a giant in between all of these, but there's no record of one, in other words, a Nephilim. So it goes down to Noah. Now, Noah was around with the flood, as we all know. Now, the giants came pretty much after or around this period, and then after the flood as well. Now, the flood, people seem to assume that the flood was done deliberately to get rid of the giants, in which case, when the pyramids were built after the flood, they wouldn't ask for a giant's help if they was trying to kill them during the flood. Now, that's technically not actually true about that they wanted to kill the giants. That would have been a byproduct of the flood, which wasn't really a flood, it was a tsunami. Watch my other videos in order if you want to know more about that. So the Lost Book of Enki, and this is genuine. You just go to the British Museum, there's 130,000 tablets. Many of them are actually what's in this book that's translated by Sitchin. And you'll see that in the ancient tablets, it talks about the period being built by Ningazida, which was an Anunnaki, around 10,000 BCE, before Christ. Now, there's papers out there now, people are starting to wake up, like the Express, saying that it's actually 12,000 pyramids 12,000 years ago, which would make sense from now. Obviously 10,000 years from Christ, so because there's a 2,000-year difference. So there's no way they would have had the giants building these if they were trying to kill them off, because they would have A, been killed off, and B, there wasn't many of them around at the time. So it's illogical to think that they would have got giants to build these things, in my opinion. Part of an alien spacecraft found in Prince Sabu's tomb in Saqqara in Egypt in the late 30s. Well, actually, we don't know what it's for. It's got various different people have said different things, so really we don't know what it's for. But the most important thing is what was with it. Now, the actual person that looked into it and found it was this gentleman here, Walter Brian Emery, and he worked for University of Liverpool and the Archaeological Survey of Nubia. Now, both of these are known to the Rockefellers. Now, this might be a two-part video because it's so interesting, so hear me out. So, in the 1920s, 25, 26, the Rockefellers offered £10 million to the Cairo Museum, and that is so that they could take over and actually put their own people in. Follow for part 2. Really important you listen to this if you need to know our true history. So this was a diagram of what would have been a new Cairo museum back in 1925-26, which was offered by the Rockefellers $10 million to actually build it and run it. Of course, the Egyptian government didn't actually like that, because it means that whatever went into the Egyptian new museum was under the control of the Rockefellers. So in other words, if they came across an artifact that wasn't what they wanted it to be, in other words, an alien artifact, they could just quite simply remove it. So in the end, the Egyptian government said, no, we're not going to allow you to do that. But interestingly, though, the Rockefellers actually ended up creating their own museum in Jerusalem. So now when people excavate things, as I was mentioning in the last video, they have full control over what gets put anywhere and hidden in big vaults. This site here, 10 interesting facts about Egypt. Let's go through a few of them, and you know they're not going to be correct. 1, the Egyptians invented the 365-day calendar. Incorrect, because Book of Enoch, which predates this, talks about 365 days, and they create the henges, which you're probably familiar with, Stonehenge, and that is an actual calendar for 365 days, so that's wrong. Number 2, the world's oldest dress was found here. That's probably correct. That's only simply because it was the most well preserved. Doesn't mean there wasn't older dresses. 3, the Great Pyramid was not built by slaves. So you think, oh, brilliant, these people know what they're talking about. And then they end up going on about the paid laborers, which there were paid people well after the pyramids were built, but the pyramids were built just after the flood, when there was hardly any people around to even help the Anunnaki build them. So I'm just running out of time, but you get the idea. These sites just make me laugh.
Have you ever left the fridge door open and wasted food? You can now attach this small fridge door alarm to your fridge or freezer door. You can choose a setting for how long you want to wait before it beeps. It starts low, then gets louder the longer the door is open. It also works with these type of fridge freezers by placing it on top of the door. To find out more, visit fridgedoораlarm.com or buy it on eBay.